coffee. Where do our clothes come from, and where do they end up? We are exposed to different trends through our phones and through social media. These styles seem to come and go quicker and quicker. Luckily, companies make new clothes that are sought after and that are the trendiest clothes for cheap. Fast fashion truly is a luxury. The average person, though, puts very little thought into how these trendy clothes are so cheap before the trend has a chance to die. Today, I want to talk to you about fast fashion. Fast fashion conquers the fashion industry by endangering laborers through harsh work conditions for profit. These factories also have drastic effects on the environment. First, I want to discuss with you what exactly is fast fashion and the ongoing harsh working conditions that the laborers in the textile industry face. Second, I want to inform you to the environmental effects that fast fashion has. Lastly, I want to suggest alternative options that you could reach for before purchasing anything from these fast fashion brands. Fast fashion is a cheap replica of what is on the high-end shelves in the fashion industry. They're usually made from a cheaper or lower quality material than the original pieces. A fast fashion powerhouse today is Temu, and they mass produce products from clothing to toys to rugs and everything in between. And in the past years, Temu accounted for 30% of all shipments from China to the US. It is a very, very commonly shopped from, especially for Western countries to shop at places like Temu. These companies save so much money and keep the products so cheap by using cheaper products. And the second way they save money is by building their warehouses and factories in nations with weaker economies and with less labor laws. These kind of lack of labor laws leave workers vulnerable to dangerous working environments. These kind of working environments have effects to the workers that can leave them with serious medical conditions like lung disease, lung cancer, reproductive and fetal harm, and injury or death from accidents. And of these workers that have such high risks just to be working there, only 2% make enough for a living wage. And this is talking with 75 million working in the textile industry, according to the New York Times. The effects of the environment that the fast fashion industry have are drastic. So fast fashion usually relies on polyester and cotton. Cotton takes 250 billion gallons of water annually for this is globally through the world. That's how much water it takes to keep up with these cotton crops. And aside from that, pesticides are used on these cotton crops, and it makes living near to these farms dangerous for both the farmers and just people that are local to the town, as well as fast fashion causes carbon emissions. Fast fashion is the second largest polluter to these carbon emissions. So 10% of all global pollution is accredited to fast fashion, and this is 1.2 billion tons of carbon produced into the air annually by fast fashion alone. Another effect that fast fashion has on the environment are the physical waste that it causes. So fast fashion clothing, because it is used by such a weak material and one that is not meant to last, they end up in landfills very often. And polyester is a very commonly used material to fast fashion, so it takes around 2 decades for polyester to completely degrade. So it's considered a non-biodegradable material for them to use. And with that being said, 500,000 tons of used clothes from the U.S. are sent to outside nations for people of these nations to resell and sort out. And if they just aren't sold, they become waste to these nations and end up in rivers and the local wildlife. So one suggestion that I have for people that do look for fast fashion is to look outside of just what's quick and cheap, and if there are very sustainable very sustainable companies that make their clothing from materials that are biodegradable. When surveyed of people that would be willing to spend more for these biodegradable clothing, 35% of people chose this option, but despite that price, and that's a good number, but it isn't exactly like world changing. So there is an alternative to finding sustainable brand new clothes. It is just thrifting and resellers that recycles clothing that can be non-sustainable. However, it is still recycled as long as it doesn't get into landfills. It's still making a difference. And a lot of thrifted clothes or resold on websites are a lot cheaper than the shelf prices that are offered. Fast fashion is a detriment in the trendiest disguise. As inheritors of the earth, it is our job to leave this place better than we found it. These purchases that fuel dangerous work conditions and pollution shouldn't be spent on should be spent on sustainable practice.